The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary-related entertainment.
Aloha and welcome to Maui Nonprofit Notes. Each week on this show, you'll find us talking story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out how they're working to support those with needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, please stop by Pacific Source's Cabinet and Appliance Showroom located in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. During this hour, we share some of the experiences of our nonprofit agencies and just how they're changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those with needs. Today on our show, we're going to start out with some folks from the MAPA, Maui Academy of Performing Arts. We've got Carolyn Wright, who's the Director of Programs, and we have Peggy
Harmon.
Hello, there's the name. I got Peggy down there, and she's the Director of Development, but Harmon just disappeared on me. And then coming up on the second half of the show, we're going to be talking with Greg Lagoy, who's the CEO of Hospice Maui. So let's just jump right in and find out what news MAPA has for us. And you do have some news.
We do. Hi, Susie. Thanks for having us here.
Peggy?
Yeah, we have some exciting news that many people have probably heard about, that we purchased a new piece of property new to MAPA in the heart of Wailuku. Right there on Main Street. We purchased a couple different buildings in order to expand our programming.
So that we're talking the main building that most people would recognize would be the the Main Street Promenade.
That's right, the Main Street Promenade, the one that has the food court down on the bottom with Gianotto's Pizza and Zings and all kinds of great restaurants in there. And then 2 stories above that have office spaces.
Gotcha. And you also got the second building that you were talking about is the green space right below it.
Right, that's the older building that's just up from the corner of Main Street and Market. And actually, it's directly across the street from the building that MAPA already owned, the old National Dollar Store. It's still how everybody knows it.
That's true.
You can tell when somebody moved to the island because when you say the old National Dollar Store, either they look blank or they go, oh, yeah, I know where you are.
Oh, let's see now. When does that go back to? Are we back in the late 70s?
Well, I don't know. They've been, the National Dollar Store was there, I think, back in the 50s.
Yeah.
But all the way up until the 90s, the late 90s.
Mm-hmm. I guess I didn't come to Wailuku very much.
Yeah. I remember buying my Christmas ornaments in there in the early 90s. So that's why I know it's still in there. It was still there then.
So we're still talking probably 20 years at least.
Yeah. We've owned that building there. That's 2027 Main Street. We've owned that since the year 2000.
Okay.
And so when we bought it, we turned it into all of our dance and drama studios, and then we have costume shops and scene shops in there. And as the years went by, our programming just kept growing and growing and growing, and we eventually got to the point where our 4 studios that are in there were not enough.
Wow.
And so we started looking around for some other studio spaces. At the same time, we used to have a theater in Queen Ka'ahumanu Center.
Oh, that's right.
The Stepping Stone Playhouse.
Right.
And the mall decided they wanted to use that space for something else. And so they asked us to leave. And so we all of a sudden didn't have a performance space.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And we didn't have enough studio space. And so we realized we needed to expand. We needed to start looking around. And we pulled together a committee of people who we were looking all over the place. I mean, really all over Central Maui. And we eventually decided we wanted to make our home in Wailuku. Wailuku has such great potential, and the county, the planning department is doing some wonderful work in trying to create an identity for Wailuku that is an arts and cultural center for the island.
Right.
So we hope to play a big role in that.
I was going to say so, yeah. And being all right there together, that's what's incredible. I mean, to find a space right across the street.
Yeah.
Well, we were astounded. I mean, we're a nonprofit organization, and but we have a wonderful president of the board, Dr. Virginia Cantorna, and she is a believer of really putting it out into the world what you're looking for. So about a year ago, she was on the MLS listings, and she called our executive director, David Johnston, up and said, David, do you know that the promenade is going on the market? And we're all going, Well, what does that mean to us? We can't possibly afford to buy anything like that on Main Street, that huge property. And she said, no, we have to investigate it. We have to investigate it. And the more we looked into it, it was a perfect sort of confluence of circumstances because a significant portion of the building, the property was rented because the USDA said, yes, you do qualify to apply for a direct loan because the interest rates were so historically low. All of these things came together to make it possible for us to purchase the property using only a direct loan from the USDA. So here we are a year later going, wow.
That's
We did
just
it.
a year?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, that's all you can say to it.
Exactly.
Was the building next door, is that part of the package?
Yes, it was
They
all
own
part
the-
of the same property.
Oh, okay.
And so it couldn't be divided. It had to be sold as the full property. And we were extraordinarily fortunate to work with some great people. The state office of USDA was just fantastic. I mean, there are just many different hoops you have to jump through. But we did manage to get the right people on board to help us with it. And at times we were tearing our hair out.
Right.
But December 6th, we closed on the property. So
And it'll be fun to see what happens over the next year now. By this coming December, we'll be midway through renovating 2020 Main Street. That's the old green building.
Okay.
And it's an old plantation style building. It was built in 1914. It was the original car dealership on Maui.
Really?
Yeah, it was the original Ford car dealership. And so they sold Model T Fords out of that building.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
it's really the perfect space for us to do a rehearsal studio that we can also do some performances out of.
So large areas.
Yeah, it's a
In the
great big
spaces,
it's a
yeah.
great big open area in the back of the building, and so we need to renovate it. It's not in great shape. The termites have certainly had their way with the,
it is
with that old
Wailuku
wood.
after
Yeah.
all.
They thought it was a restaurant. Yeah, I
Exactly.
understand. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're just at the beginning processes right now of having the architect draw up the plans for phase one of our project, which is to turn the 2020 Main Street into what we're going to be calling the Performance Garage.
Cool.
And so we'll use it for rehearsals and drama classes and performances as well. And then phase two will be developing the entire property and putting in a larger theater, hopefully 300 seat or so theater there, so that we can have multiple performance spaces in Wailuku to create an arts and cultural district in Wailuku. So we've got the EO Theater doing their wonderful work, and then we'll have MAPA with two performance spaces, the Performance Garage and then the bigger theater. But the Performance Garage, we're on kind of a fast track for that. We hope within the next couple of years to be up and running with a full season in that
Wow.
space.
That's something that can be utilized by all ages.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, we've got so many classes. We've got an enrollment of about 1,200 children every single week, funneling through our building there, going to our studios to take dance and drama classes. And they want an opportunity to perform.
Right.
And so other than our summer program and other than our big dance recital that happens every year, in May, we do a big spring extravaganza dance recital at the MAC. But other than a couple opportunities like that, the kids don't have a chance to perform. And so the Performance Garage will give them that venue where they can strut their stuff for the Maui community.
Interesting, because most of your classes run what, anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks or something? Did I
Yes,
read
we
that
have
someplace?
2 semesters. Each semester is 16 weeks long, and then we have an 8-week semester, like a mini semester, in the summertime. And so we've got classes going on pretty much all the time. Any day that you walk into our building after school hours up until about 8 o'clock at night, it's just teeming with people.
Wow.
In their tutus and their hip hop attire and
Gotcha. That's great. So this will give them, as you said, a chance to perform for small audiences.
Exactly.
And that pretty much takes in like family and friends.
Yeah,
many
although
cases.
yes, although depending on the title, for instance, when we did The Little Mermaid last summer with our kids, it was ages 8 to 18. We had about 70 kids in that program, and many of the audience members were not related to the children.
Right. Young families who wanted to bring their kids to see live theater.
What they could do.
Yes,
Exactly.
One of these days, yeah.
Exactly. And we make it as affordable as possible for people to come with large families to see those kinds of shows and to see kids performing for other kids.
Right.
And then at the same time, we'll have an opportunity for kids to be able to perform in that venue, but then we'll also have a full season of shows for adults as well that will be happening.
Oh.
So, and we really need that on this island. I mean, we've got Pro Arts happening down in Kihei, which is wonderful. They do great small productions. We've got all the great work that happens at the EO Theater, but there is more demand than what the supply is able to deliver right now. So we'll be able to do some of those smaller shows that we haven't had a chance to do since Stepping Stone closed in the mall.
Interesting. So sometimes you hear people say that we have so much talent because people retire here who have been Broadway or off Broadway even in some of the bigger cities and across the mainland and have been performing, and they come here and they can either turn into the directors or continue their performances and help guide other people with a lack of experience and turn them into more professional type people.
We are so lucky here. I think for the size of population that we have here on Maui, to have the level of talent that we can tap into to do these shows is incredible. If anybody's come to see any of our big shows at the MAC every summer, it's unbelievable. We get feedback from audiences later that say this is the same quality that I've seen on Broadway or any of the great regional theaters across the country. And we are just so blessed on Maui that people seem to be attracted to come to this place who have fabulous skills.
Yeah, I can remember growing up, our family got season tickets to the summer theater. It was an open air. It was about a town 20 miles from where we lived. We lived in a small town, and it was back in Indianapolis. And it was like, I mean, they had big name stars who came in for the lead roles, and then it was local folks who filled in all the rest. And it was like, you're sitting there looking at these people and going, he does what during the day?
Yes.
I mean, because having the star there or having somebody who's performed at that level brings up everybody else.
Absolutely.
To their top performance skills.
Well, yeah, you come to one of our big shows at the MAC in the summertime, and the cast size is 50, 55, 60 people, and we have psychologists, and we have doctors, and we have somebody who works on the cancer ward at the hospital, and it's all over the map. And yet their other passion is performing arts, and they're all working for free. Even the leads have been doing that. So we've been really remarkably fortunate. And I would imagine, I mean, the kind of show we can do at the MAC is not a show we would ever do in a small performance space. So I would imagine we would always want the opportunity to do a show in the Castle Theater, because that's a whole different kind of wonderful venue to bring people to. And it just adds to the richness of the kinds of arts opportunities that we can all offer to the Maui community.
A lot of people tend to think of MAPA as being the kids' classes and the kids' shows. And our mission is enriching individuals, building community, and connecting our world through the performing arts. And that's relevant for whether you're 3 years old or whether you're 83 years old. We have people who devote so much time and energy to being in our shows because it truly does enrich their lives. Yeah. And so that idea of lifelong education, one thing that I'm really proud of that we do at MAPA is, in addition to all of the performances and the classes, we also have programs that go into the schools so that we can reach kids who might not normally come to our academy classes, or their parents may not take them to the MAC to see one of our big shows. We want to be able to reach every kid because the arts have the capacity to kind of turn you into an amazingly self-confident, strong person who can communicate effectively, and we want every kid to have access to that. So that's why we go into the schools and do the work there.
And what a great program that is to be able to take that out there. That's not cheap.
No, it's not. And many of the schools, the PTAs pay for it. We do get some support from the county and the state for those programs. I just recently finished a residency up at King Kekaulike High School working with the 11th graders. They were reading The Crucible in their English classes, and of course that's a play written by Arthur Miller. And we are in the middle of producing that production, that play, in collaboration with Seabury Hall Performing Arts Department. And so it was a wonderful experience to take these kids through the process of how do you look at the script through the eyes of an actor. And when I went up there, I thought, okay, these are 11th graders. I mean, these are, 17-year-old kids. Are they going to really care about the Crucible, But it was amazing to see how turned on they were to the whole idea of telling stories through the art form of theater.
Wow.
And so many of them have come to see the show, The Crucible. We opened The Crucible last weekend.
Let's hang on there. We're going to save that. We got to take a short break. We'll be back and we'll jump into The Crucible.
Great.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we're back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly radio show where we talk story with our executive directors and their staff to find out what is happening within their agency and how it's affecting our community. And the effects, if Carolyn is any measure of how this affects our community, you got to be building all kinds of characters out there. Self-confidence and levels have got to be just rising. Because just sitting here across from Carolyn as she talks about what you do, and Peggy also at MAPA, it's making me want to go down and take a class.
Okay,
all right, we're going to hold you to that.
I'm going to let you know when our next audition is.
And one of the things actually that we are looking forward to with the new space is beginning to develop more programming for adults.
Yes.
So you will have your opportunity.
I see. Okay. And
everybody out there in Radio Land heard that.
Right. And I did a couple things in high school that I really enjoyed. And one was warming up the audience before we did the Pirates of Penzance.
Oh my goodness.
What did you do to warm them up?
Just out there in my costume and just,
great.
kind of brought him into that place.
Awesome.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't have a part in the performance, and maybe that's because I'm bad at doing lines that are written for me. I'm much better at ad-libbing,
Well, that's not an easy skill.
No.
Anyway, but I remember those times fondly. So we're talking with Peggy Harmon, who's the Director of Development, and with Carolyn Wright, who is the Director of Programs for MAPA, Maui Academy of Performing Arts, talking about the new buildings and the new programming that they're going to be able to do in the new buildings, and also talking about the outreach into the schools and talking with students. Now, you do that to all ages, right?
We do. We've got programs that go kindergarten through 12th grade. And then we actually have, like Peggy was mentioning, we do have education programs for adults as well. For example, last summer we did Jekyll and Hyde. That was our musical at Maui Arts and Cultural Center. And so I decided, hey, this is a book that was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Let's get some of the book clubs on the island to read the book, and then I'll go to the book club meeting and we'll explore the book the way theater professionals would explore the book. And so it was a fantastic experience. I think I worked with six 6 different book clubs. They all read the story, and then I went and did a drama lesson with them to bring the story to life. And then they came to a rehearsal, and they were able to watch David Johnston working with the actors, working on many of the same skills that I had just taught them in their book club meeting. And then they came to see the show. So, yeah, we have programs for all ages.
That's just, I think that it's maybe one of the most understated programs out there because you do so much for so many.
We do.
And I think everybody enters our organization from a different place. I mean, we have obviously thousands of people over the years who have come into our academy programs, and they know our dance and our drama programs for kids. And then we have a whole segment that only know us through our school programs. And then our productions for adults, again, is another entry point. So that's kind of exciting, because then as people get to know us better, they go, oh, wait. Okay, so I was doing this show last summer, but I've got a teenager who might be interested in your hip hop, so let me explore this over here. And it is about the philosophy of we never stop learning, that the arts are going to benefit all of us continually through our lives.
Right.
And
Wow. Okay, now when we took the break, we were just talking about the Crucible.
Yeah.
And you started last weekend.
We did. We opened last weekend. We had 2 performances last weekend up at Seabury Hall. And we have 3 performances this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday are at 7 o'clock, and Sunday at 3 o'clock. The thing that's really cool about the Crucible is this co-production between Seabury Hall and MAPA. And so most of the cast are students, but we have adults in the production as well. And it was directed by David Johnston, our artistic and executive director. And so we have faculty members from Seabury. We have community actors who actually don't even have a connection to Seabury, who are in the cast. So you have an opportunity to see this broad range of people performing a show that, honestly, I can't think of a better show to be doing right now, given everything that's happening in our world. It really speaks to what's happening to us right now. So it's riveting. My test always, especially a show that tends to be talky like this one, there's no music in it. It's not a musical in any way. My test to see how well it's landing with the audience is how much do people shift around in their seats. And so on Saturday night, I was looking around the audience, and even in the kind of slower scenes, people were riveted.
Wow.
And so I would encourage everybody to head up to Seabury Hall and see the Crucible this weekend.
Right.
You can go to seaburyhall.org to get tickets or make reservations.
Cool.
And one of the stars, and she won't talk about her, is actually Carolyn's daughter, who has grown up in MAPA, starting at about, the age of 4, and is graduating from high school this year, and she's playing Elizabeth Proctor. And my gosh, it was, the whole production was remarkable, and Eliza in particular.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
She better be in school, so I don't think she's listening to this right now, but I'll tell her you said that.
We can get you a tape if you want to play it. That's cool. That's great. And then now you've also got a big fundraiser coming up.
We do. It's called Parisian Cabaret. Get your can on. Anybody who's been to one of MAPA's galas in the spring knows that we get kind of wild and woolly. There's a lot of the regular stuff you would expect. We have a live auction and so forth, but we also have interactive side shows. So anybody who wants to participate can enjoy Kicking It with Kathleen and do a little can. We're going to have mini Mulan golf. This is all up at King Kamehameha Golf Club on the 17th of March, by the way. Outdrink the Irishman. It's a nod to a nod to St. Patrick's Day.
With water, though.
With water. Okay, we're being responsible.
Right. Okay.
And then the Toulouse-Lautrec Portrait Challenge. So those are all sideshows that our guests are going to get involved in. But it's really a great night, and what we're doing is raising money primarily for our summer musical theater camp. We give significant amounts of scholarship to the kids who attend that camp, because although if you look at it by the hour, it's extremely affordable, but it's still a big chunk for people to come up with, for a 6-week camp.
Right.
And this is it builds skills. It builds not just performing arts skills, but life skills. And then they get to do a full production. Last year it was The Little Mermaid. A couple of years ago it was Oliver. And it's 60 to 70 kids who get this rich, deep experience
And you're
for
not
6
giving
weeks.
us a hint what it's going to be this year.
Well,
no, we
I-
haven't announced it yet.
I have to defer to this one.
Gotcha. Okay. So now, is that a full day?
They usually go from 9 to 2.
Okay.
Sometimes 9 to 3, depending on the show and how much rehearsal time we need
Okay.
with it. But the kids take classes in acting, singing, and dancing, and then they rehearse and then perform the show.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kids from all over the island. We've had even kids from Hana who have come out and participated in this in the past. We've had kids coming from the mainland, actually, over the last couple of years, because
Really?
as the camp has grown in reputation in
Right.
terms of the quality of work that we do, not just artistically, but also in terms of building those life skills that Peggy was talking about. We've got people coming from all over to do the camp. So
Is that held right here?
it's right here in Wailuku. It's in our
Cool.
in our pink building, the old National Dollar Store building. We rehearse in there, and then we are renting Seabury Hall's Performing Arts
For the
performance.
finale.
Yes, eventually once we create our theater here in
Right.
Wailuku, we'll be able to do those shows here.
And that camp is open to what age group?
8 to 18.
8 to 18.
8 to 8.
Yes.
Okay, so quite a range.
Yes,
Yeah.
quite a range.
Wow.
And we've got lots of great professionals who'll be working with them. Miss Kathleen Schultz, who many, many people know, she's our dance director and always one of the leaders of the camp. And we have choreographers and musicians who come in and teach the classes and then direct the show. And it's a glorious experience.
Cool. That's great. So you've got, I mean, there's no stopping.
Oh, gosh.
We never
wrap
stop.
the
I
clock.
know.
What
We're
is
actually
that?
exhausted, but you wouldn't know it by looking at. We fake it really well since we're actors. No. No, it's exhausting. Mappa used to have a cycle where we would kind of have some downtime, and now we've just grown so much. There's so much demand for the services that we provide to the community that we kind of never do stop.
I gotcha.
But we have a big staff of teaching artists and other theater artists and dance artists who help us out. So,
Well, with folks like you leading the way, I can see why everybody gets excited about it, because it shows, it glows. What can we say?
well, thank you, Susie. Thanks for having us on the
Thanks,
show.
Carolyn
Thanks
and
for doing
Peggy,
the
for
show.
being here with
Yeah,
us and
yeah.
giving us some insight as to what's going to happen there in your piece of Main Street.
Yeah, we'll keep you informed on the news as we move forward with building the
Looking forward
performance
to it.
garage.
Great. Okay, and for more information, they can call
244-8760.
or go on website at Maui.
MauiAcademy.org.
Okay, spelled out, Maui Academy.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Great.
Thank you
Okay,
for being
thanks so
here.
much.
Thanks so much.
Okay,
Take
aloha.
care. Bye-bye.
Uh-huh. Oh, Greg, how do we follow that?
Hi, Susie.
Hi. That's wonderful. I just, it always kind of gets the blood flowing when they come in and get started with this. And
It's exciting. It's interesting that the business that I'm in. My wife is in the entertainment business. She produces various sorts of shows for the visitor industry, for conventions and whatnot at the resorts. And so I have a foot in the Mappa. We sometimes hire some of their people. So we sometimes rent their costumes. So it's
see,
something that I'm familiar with.
everybody's related to everybody. This is
Yep.
great. Thank you so much. So, I didn't realize she did that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And-
That would be
and
very
I help
interesting.
with stage managing when I'm not running Hospice Maui.
Right. That's quite a switch.
Quite a switch.
So we've got you on because last time you were on, I think it was the day before the blessing for your holly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's now, about 4 months old?
It's actually less than that. It's only
3.5?
3. It's just
Okay.
3 months. Just 3.
Okay.
We had our grand opening was on Thursday, December 1st. So I was probably in
okay.
here on Wednesday, November 30th.
Yeah, I think
probably.
it was because you were, as soon as you were done, you were out of here back working on it.
Yeah.
I think you had a group coming in that afternoon.
That's right.
even.
That's right. We had before this show was the Tuesday, and we had our major donors. So we had a special event for them. And the interesting thing about that was that on the previous Sunday, which was only 2 days before, we had a few of our board members helping with some cleanup of the parking lot and landscaping kinds of things. And one of the directors walked in, and we didn't have any countertops, we didn't have plumbing fixtures, and we didn't have light fixtures. And he said, and we didn't yet have the carpeting in the meditation room. And he said, "This isn't going to be ready for the opening." I said, "Oh yeah, it is. Everything's on schedule." He says, "There is no way." And I said, yeah, it's everything's fine. And so Tuesday, 2 days later, we had in the evening, it was 5 p.m. we had our special sort of preview opening for donors, major donors, and the place was done. And he came into that event and he looked around and he just didn't know what to say. It was like he just kind of shook his head, and it was like, I don't know how this possibly could have happened. And then the next day was Wednesday, and we had our community partners, sort of physicians, case managers, people who work in healthcare and whatnot. And so we had them visiting both in the afternoon and in the evening. And then that was the day that we had our interview. And then Thursday morning was the official blessing and grand opening. And our plan was to have first patient on Monday. And we had our first patient on Monday.
Wow.
And everything wasn't done. They were on the left side. Some of the rooms weren't completed yet, so we had it screened off. But within a few days, it's still not fully, totally, completely done. There's a few bits and pieces that the general contractor still has to resolve. But we've been operating full for weeks, and there was a point within I believe 3 weeks of us, maybe 4 weeks of opening, that we were full. And then we went down again and up, and we've been full now steadily for a couple of weeks at least. So, and I say full, we have 5 bedrooms. And so that means that we've had 5 people in our hospice hale at most all times.
Now, to explain to those who may not be familiar with the purpose of the hale, it's a short-term thing for most people.
Hospice residences come in 2 basic varieties. One is where they are used for people who perhaps have no caregivers, and where someone may be in them for weeks or months at a time. We have a contract with Hale Makua, and if someone is in that situation, we can serve those people while they're in Hale Makua, which is set up for taking care of people for a very long period of time. That's their norm. This is set up more like the way some of the more, how would you say it, critical, high need, high acuity people who are within the last days of their lives typically, and we typically admit those people directly from the hospital, and their situation in terms of their medical situation, the family situation, the home situation, whatever the overall picture is, it's just not quite right for those people to go home. And so they come into our hale. And I haven't done the calculation, but my sense is that our length of stay is between 5 and 10 days on average. Once in a while, someone will come out of the hospital before they would normally have left the hospital and come to our hale so that they can get that bed open. The hospital's been very busy lately. Right. And then we can finish transitioning them for home care in our place.
Oh, I see.
And because there are a lot of things that need to be changed, and the home prepared, and the caregivers psyched in order to do this kind of care. And so ordinarily that has always happened in the hospital, but we're able to help the hospital discharge people much more quickly and take them on.
Oh, that's a big help. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And it's also, it's a very family-friendly orientation. It
is family-friendly. Each room has a chair in it that converts into a bed that's the same size as the patient bed. It's like a single bed, but a little bit longer and a little bit narrower. And we have a kitchen dining facility that families can come. They can bring food and eat in there. We have a living room that has 3 different sitting areas, and one area, this is part of what we haven't finished yet, but one of the areas is being set up so that it's more child friendly. And we're talking, not about art supplies or pillow fights or whatnot. We're talking about books and puzzles and quiet things under adult supervision in a particular area that's a little more comfortable and kid-friendly, with a cabinet of various things, stuffed toys and different things that they can be with.
Those are the kinds of things that I wouldn't think about, because when I think of of what's happening there, I'm traditionally thinking of older people, and I forget that they have grandkids and great-grandkids.
Yep. And pets.
Oh, pets.
We also allow people to bring pets to visit because, of course, if someone is in their last few days and if they want to see their pet, it would be terrible if that were a barrier.
Wow.
So the rule is, in terms of visiting, we have to allow people of any age to visit any time of the day. And then in terms of pets, we can set that up, and we have that set up so that during regular working hours when we have a little bit more staff, we let people bring their pets in. Of course,
that's great.
You know, the fundamental rule in our hale is that people need to be aware that regardless of how they personally are feeling at the moment, there may be people there who are having a very difficult time.
Right.
And so it needs to be a place where there's a serene atmosphere, where people are being careful about how the place is being lived in. And so that's very important. And because this is a brand new operation, and because nobody likes to have rules imposed upon them in terms of staff, what we do is we have now been in it for a couple of months, and we're developing the rules according to what the need is so that the staff feels the need, and it makes them much more comfortable enforcing rules because they're feeling the impact of not having the rules. Because we started, instead of starting tight, we started quite loose. And the staff is feeling the need to tighten. So this is nice because I'm not then having to be the big bad wolf. It's like everybody's ready to tighten things up a little bit here.
Right.
And so it's good for morale. It's a good thing.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Greg Lagoy of Hospice Maui.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly radio show where we talk story with our nonprofit executive directors and find out what's happening in their world, which affects our world. Mm-hmm. And we're currently talking with Greg Lagoy, who's the CEO of Hospice Maui. We've been talking about their new hale, which has been open for about 3.5 months now. And it's not some place where you make a reservation because you don't know when you're going to need it, kind of thing. Is it right?
Well, that's an interesting observation, Susie.
I guess I could go a couple different ways. Maybe that wasn't the right way to say it.
We do occasionally have people who say, oh, this is where I would like to spend my last week or so. And the challenge, of course, and this is one of the reasons why we specifically want to keep it so that people are here for a short period of time. And that is, if our average length of stay is 5 days, and if there were 5 bedrooms, it means every day, on average, a bedroom opens up. That means that if somebody really wants or needs to come in, it means that there's probably not going to be a long wait because these people are not in a place where they can wait. So this is another thing. If we were taking care of people for longer periods of time, it would not serve people when they needed it.
Right.
So the issue of a reservation, it is an issue, and it's one of the things that governs how we choose who can come in and who can't. And the main piece of this is based on need. If their need is for a place for weeks, then we're going to work to get them into Halemakua or to stabilize the home setting so that they can stay comfortably at home. And so that's something that both of those things we've been doing for years.
Right. Interesting. And we had Wes Lowe on just the other week with his new position over at Halemakua. And he was talking about how they need to be able to help and get more people out of the hospital and into their beds.
Wes Lowe has the enviable position of now having been on both sides of that fence. He understands it like nobody else understands it.
That's right. And it's a tricky piece.
Oh yes,
I mean it's not as simple as it sounds, because you've got
the tricky piece is that the hospital is wanting Halemakua to take people who have needs that are higher than what Halemakua can provide for the amount of money they're given.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. And the state system that does this, the Medicaid system, doesn't have a lot of flexibility in it. And I think Wes has gone to the legislature to try to get some money earmarked to be able to move this.
Right, he was talking about
that. And on the other side of that, Kaiser's way of managing the hospital may allow a little more flexibility. Kaiser may be able to kick in a little bit in order to have someone who is occupying a room that could be utilized for a higher need.
Right.
And higher need means higher reimbursement. So, I mean, that kind of thing can conceivably also work.
Well, he was kind of talking about the difference if I think he'd asked the legislature for some money, and I can't remember the exact amount, but he was talking something in the neighborhood of like if he could get $2 million to help with this transition earlier for some of these people, it could save the state and the hospital $11 million.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There's no question about that.
And those are numbers somebody's got to pay attention to.
The challenge is the regulatory framework and the rules. And there's, fortunately we have one hospital and one nursing home company, because otherwise then it could be using government money to play favor. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're in an enviable situation in that sense. And yet still it's difficult, because Wes and Tony Krieg tried to do this for years and years and years. Right. So we're I have my fingers crossed that with the extra expertise that Wes brings to this. And Tony Krieg is actually working in the legislature as a legislative assistant.
Oh, is he really?
As a retiree, yes. He's working with a committee having to do with healthcare.
That's a good place.
I don't know the name of it, and so he's getting a new perspective on the process.
Now he's finding out why it didn't work for him. Who's the stumbling block, or whatever we want to call it? Interesting. That's fascinating. I don't know whether that's more relaxing work or more heavy duty and taxing work.
What Tony said, he said, I was used to having a very competent staff around me. When I needed something done, I would say, could you please do this? He said, I'm now that staff, and I'm not that competent. And they tell me that we need to have this done and this done and this. And he says, and I got to start from scratch with a word processor and make it happen myself. And I got to carry the papers over to the Xerox department.
Are we saying the things are antiquated over there a little bit?
We're saying that Tony's skill set has long since left those behind, and that he's struggling from scratch to relearn them.
Oh my goodness! Well, he asked for a challenge. He got it. Yeah. One of the just to transition a little bit here. One of the things that I noticed on your website is that you've got a free screening of a film coming up.
Yes, it's called Being Mortal, and it's Atul Gawande's. It's a film made by Frontline. PBS Frontline, and it focuses on the book that he wrote that was a bestseller. And we're having that. It's going to be held at University of Hawaii Maui campus on Monday, March 20th. And it's going to be in the Ka'aiki building, room 105. I'm sure there's going to be signs. It's about the movie itself is just over 50 minutes, 55 minutes, maybe something like that. It's not a movie, it's a film, as I said. If people wanted to preview it to see what it's like, you can go on pbs.org and you can go on YouTube, and it's available there, and you can see snippets of it. It is very powerful, and it raises fundamental questions about treatment and about at what point conversations take place that help people decide what kind of treatment they want. And it's very, very well written and well done. And what we do is we have a panel discussion, or we break into small groups depending upon the situation. I think this one coming up at Maui College is going to be, once people see the film, they're going to break them up into groups of 3 or 4 people and have conversations that are guided with specific questions about, because there are 3 or 4 patient vignettes in this, I think maybe 4, maybe even more. And so there are little threads of storyline that run through this that touch people in different ways. So this is one of the things that's probably most sad or tragic about people whose lives are ending naturally through some disease process, is that by the time they realize what their choices really are and what really they're facing, the time left is often so short that they can't really make proper use of it. And so we see that, of course, a lot, because we will get a referral on someone who dies within 24 hours. And the family is like, why didn't we know about this sooner? Why? And there are various kinds of barriers. You know, to start with, the average person spends more time watching television in one night than they spend talking to family members about their wishes at the end of life in their whole life.
It's true, yeah.
It's just a topic people would prefer to avoid.
Right.
And so what we feel that this is a great opportunity for is to structure an event that is both interesting and captivating and then stimulates the conversation. And the people who come and participate in this discover something. And that is that when they start having the conversation, they realize that the aversion that they may have had doesn't have any legs under it. There's no basis for the aversion. They're happy to have the conversation. And so the conversation tends to widen. They know this is available on pbs.org. They can run this at home and have a conversation with family members. These are like seed events from which we hope more people have these challenging but yet very rewarding and very important conversations, and then it changes people's experience at the end of life.
It turns them from being some sudden they're gone to a kind of this sounds really crude, but a phase out, if you can.
So I have a metaphor, an image that I've used that I think is really appropriate. When there is a disease process that someone is in the middle of that is both progressive and incurable, that is like being on a train track that there's walls and you can't get off the train track. And most people are running as hard as they can away from the train. This is like saying, you know what? If you sit down now, or if you run like crazy, it's going to not make much difference, if any, in terms of when your death actually occurs. But if we decide to sit and have a picnic on the train tracks, you know what? It is an amazingly intimate and rich experience, because the train is coming and you know it, and it changes everything. Whereas if you're just running away from the train, you're just focused on running, and it's going to run over you anyway. So why not have a picnic on the tracks? Because you can't get off the tracks no matter what you do.
Interesting. That's good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. There's a realization that finally hits.
Mm-hmm.
But for so many, it's too late.
Right, because people don't want that realization.
Right.
They push it away. It's like people spend their whole lives not recognizing and embracing the fact that death is a part of the whole deal.
Right.
It's like we want life, we want life, we want life. Well, it's life, death, life. It's all mixed together. And so embracing that gives a person a tremendous freedom in the moment.
I like that. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that a lot of people would get a lot out of that screening and that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes people say when they sit down and they start talking about who gets what when I die, and they think that's the big deal. It's not.
You know, everybody has their own experience, and everybody has their own priorities, and I don't think that we can sit here and say what is and isn't a big deal, because for
Okay.
some people that's a big deal.
Okay.
All I'm saying is that these conversations are a big deal regardless of anything else. It doesn't mean they're more important or less important. They are important.
They're all part of the package.
They're all part of the package. And if you don't have conversations, if you don't spend time focusing on the decisions that may come at the end of life, then there are opportunities that are missed. And it's always true, but particularly at the end of life, each thing that happens is a one-time event. And it's not repeatable. It's like if you go into the grocery store one day and you forgot your shopping list, or you have it and you got distracted and you got half your stuff, or you bought the hot salsa instead of the mild salsa, or whatever it is, you knocked over the shampoo display. Whatever happened that day isn't a big tragedy, because you know that you're going to be going back lots of times and you'll probably do it better next time, right?
Right.
Well, that's not the case when someone is dying and you're having an interaction with this person, or you're making decisions about stuff. You don't get to do it again. It's a one-time deal, and the more prepared people are, the more willing to communicate on a difficult topic that people are, the more complete their knowledge, the more willing that they are to feel things, and the richer the experience, and whatever choices and decisions are made on with a lot more information and from a much more stable place, and people have fewer regrets. And that's a big deal, because when people look back and say, I wish I had done this, I didn't realize it was a one-shot deal, the regrets are, something that can really haunt people. And so this showing, these conversations, this perspective is aimed at people being able to not have regrets about what has happened in their lives, the decisions they've made, the things that they've done for people that they love.
Interesting. It's like being able to put your family at peace
Mm-hmm. Yep.
rather than in harm's way,
In distress.
in distress. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Greg, it's always a great conversation with you. And while the topic is what it is,
Sobering.
sobering to say the least,
Mm-hmm.
yes. There are so many better ways to approach it than what most of us do, just naturally.
I would say if the listener doesn't need to commit to coming to this thing, the listener needs to be willing to go online to pbs.org and look at this, sit with it in their own privacy, so that if it brings up emotion and they're not willing to have that emotion in with other family members, they don't have to.
Right.
And so this is a powerful catalyst for change. And that's the blessing in death, is it is a powerful catalyst for awakening, for change, for recognition of fundamental aspects of life.
Wow. On that note, how do I close the show? That's it's always I always walk out of here after talking to you just kind of shaking my head going, what do people do who don't hear these things?
They suffer.
They suffer, yeah, and the rest of the family suffers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you so much, Greg.
It's always a pleasure.
Boy, okay. So this is Maui Nonprofit Notes, sponsored by as a community service by Pacific Source, the builder's choice. Give Paul and his staff a call at 986-0380 or stop by their showroom in the Waikapu Base Yard on East Oahe Way to see how they can help you with your building project.
I've done that lots of times. They're a great group to work with.
That's right. They helped you redo your house, yeah? That's one, yeah. Oh, I agree. And Paul is so fabulous. Today we visited with Peggy and Carolyn from MAPA, Maui Academy of Performing Arts, and Greg Lagoy of Hospice Maui, and got an update on what their agencies are doing. If you've heard something here today that you want to know more about, give MAPA a call at 244-8760 or give Hospice Maui a call at 244-5555.
The easiest number on the island.
There we go. It's etched in my brain here from talking with Greg from time to time. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to join us right here again next week, same time, same place, when we'll feature 2 other representatives of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. Until then, I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host. Thanks for joining us. Aloha, everyone. Have a great week.